You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
I don't know how the guy does it, but Ken confirms Zach Phillips is awake following that crazy game at the Shark Tank last night. It's Nick Alberga, Carter Hutton, the Friday edition of Leafs Morning Take presented by Bet365. What's going on, Huts?
You know what's worse than a kick in the balls? Like a Leafs loss last night to the Sharks is waking up here and it's springtime. There was no snow and we just got hit with 20 centimeters. So I got the double whammy last night. They got me hard today.
What do they say? What a league. That's how I feel today as well. I went to the Blue Jays home opener. I can't even say it. What a shit team. What a shit team. Thankfully, Rogers Center is a pretty fun place to watch a baseball game. I watched about 3 pitches. 2 bombs are hit right beside me. You know, just par for the course when you go to Rogers Center. The opposition wins. They're missing half their team. They still win. They blow them out on opening day. So good stuff.
Yeah, that's a tough way. That's a tough way to start the season.
They suck.
Did they do more upgrades this season? Because I had been there a couple years ago and it was pretty cool. Like those bars they added in and like the seating, and it was unbelievable. I don't know if they kept going with it.
Yeah, they have some upgrades. It's hilarious. Like they're going to be rebuilding soon because Bo Bichette's not re-signing. Vladdy Guerrero's not re-signing. So they're going to have like Joe Schmo in center field, and we're going to have upgrades for this building, and they're going to be charging a pretty penny. That's my other gripe with Rogers Center is the inflated prices now. That was kind of a cool place to go, and the prices weren't as crazy as like Scotiabank Arena, but it's changed. But it's always fun to go to opening day. It was a good vibe. Good feeling until the team started playing baseball, and that's when it took a turn.
I guess that's what they do. They do all the upgrades, like, hey, look over here, look how nice it is.
Yeah,
try to get your attention from what's going on to shit on the field.
I just hope the Leafs never get to that level. Be like, hey, we went after Sidney Crosby, we went after Connor McDavid. We didn't necessarily get them, but we went after them, and that's exactly what the Blue Jays are trying to pull from their fans right now. Our Super Chat charity partner this season is Sick Kids. Want to make sure that your question or comment gets on the show. Hit us up with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat will go to Sick Kids, ranked the #1 research-intensive children's hospital in Canada and 3rd in the world. Got to ask you off the top, do we make too much of these games where teams go out west or out east? I know a lot of the players were asked about the time change going into San Jose last night.
Yeah, like it's a part of being a pro, right? It's part of the league. It's not like this is something new, right? And the majority of these guys have been through it. They know how to, you know, I guess for me, it's just disheartening, right? You go out and you lay an egg like that where you have a chance to kind of gain lead in the Atlantic, right? You know what I mean? You have a game in hand, like Florida's has a game in hand story and they're a point back where you just kind of want to widen that gap and have a good performance, get things off on the right foot and build off that game against the Flyers. So to go out and have that performance, it's disheartening. But for me, the travel is tricky, right? But it's one of those things. I think they get there early. The sports science of it now is so intelligent. They know how to take care of their bodies. They know what to do. And I remember going to Stockholm, Sweden. They had a set up with like everything to get, adjusted. And they have stuff on the plane for you, even when you're going out west. So I think that's an excuse. Honestly, it's the NHL, man. This is the pros. You know how to get up for the game like that. And they just obviously didn't have it last night.
The only thing I'll say, and I brought this up with Rosie, I think there's nervous flyers out there. Like maybe some guys can't sleep on the plane. Like we don't know the whole story. There's a variety of former NHLers, we'll say, where I find out after the fact that they were nervous flyers. And I'm not making excuses. The Leafs were dog shit last night. The goaltending wasn't great. But I think that plays a factor when everybody's like, oh, they just get on a plane and it's the NHL. But sometimes it's one of those things you really can't control, and like being a nervous flyer and then getting that time change. Like for me specifically, when I travel, it happened in Nashville. I couldn't sleep on the plane, couldn't sleep before. So I went like 30 hours without sleeping. Like I think it happens more than we think at the NHL level too.
Yeah, but you drank a case of beer when you landed too, so I don't know if they did that. But honestly, I know what you mean. I played with a few guys. I remember Jason Palmville constantly would take like a gravel when he would get on the plane, and he'd just like kind of tuck himself in and try to rest. Anton Volchenkov, D-man, shot blocking machine, maniac, was like so scared. I remember him sitting behind me and like, I actually don't get bothered by turbulence by anything. And I'm very fortunate because I see people struggle with it. He'd always grab me by the shoulders, be like, Hutsy, we okay? We're going to be okay. I'd be like, it's okay. Like guys like 6'3", 240 pounds, an absolute tank. And he's scared from a little bit of, so I get there's that adjustment, but again, you have to find ways to get through it, and you get there early enough to get your body going and find a way. And obviously a disheartening loss last night. And I expect them to bounce back now against LA.
I sat beside Rosie on the flight home from Nashville the other day, and I won't lie, yours truly, a little scared sometimes of some turbulences. Zach Phillips was to the right of me, and I look over to Rosie. He's like chilling. I'm like, this doesn't bother you at all? And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, the turbulence. He's like, who gives a shit? I'm like, it was such a Rosie response. And me and Zach looked at each other. I'm like, nothing phases this guy. You're probably the same way then. I guess like all the time traveling in the league too, but like I travel quite a bit. I'm never comfortable in the air. So
Yeah,
I
I don't
always
know.
wonder about that, you know?
I've just never had like a bad experience. Maybe there's something happened when you're a kid traveling or something. For me, it's
Maybe.
never really bothered. I've been on a couple flights where it's like been a little crazy and you start to get those big drops and I'm like, you notice them. But for me, general turbulence, I'll just be sitting there listening to podcasts or watching a show and it doesn't even phase me and people get really bothered by it. I think it's like one way or the other though, Nick, like truthfully.
Yeah.
And I think that flight home from Nashville, that's not easy for anybody after
Well,
that.
dude, I should add too, like I'm a nervous flyer, but not like a very, very nervous flyer, but I was feeling it a bit. And when I'm feeling it, it gets much worse when it comes to turbulence. So Max Pacioretty, yesterday, Craig Berube asked about Pacioretty. Nobody's seen or heard from this guy in weeks, dating back to I guess the trade deadline, but Berube said he is pretty confident Pacioretty will play in the playoffs. I'm going to tell you right now, Pacioretty will play in the playoffs. We've been consistent in saying that on this show for a month, but where do you think Max Pacioretty fits in this lineup, though?
I think on the fourth line, honestly. I
Yeah?
think down in the lineup, I think he's going to be a banger. He's going to be like that. Maybe you start to really use him on that like identity line. You know, we talk about how successful those lines have been on certain teams where you can have a line that's going to go out and the puck is kind of irrelevant to them, right? They're going to go in, finish checks, make it hard on other teams. And I think that's going to be important as we look at these matchups that they're going to face, right? You know, especially with what Florida's going to bring to the table. When we talk about the potential of Sam Bennett, Brad Marchand, Matthew Tkachuk, you know, you need guys like Max Pacioretty. And I think he's going to embrace that role. And I think early in the year, he was very physical. So him being out for as long as he has is worrisome in a sense, Nick, for me. But I also believe that they're being strategic with this, right? And I think we're seeing this for a lot of teams now. I know we don't necessarily do load management outside of goalies, but I think teams now, if you get a little bit of a green light to rest a guy and, you know, you can stay status quo where you are in the playoffs and you're not really, you know, fighting to get in, give him that extra rest because every healthy body you need down the stretch. And there's no really catching up once playoffs come.
My only wonder is he the type of guy that you can just insert in your lineup game one? Like he hasn't played in a long time. Granted, when he has been in the lineup, I think he has to a degree been pretty effective and he brings something this team doesn't have a lot of, and that's a physical nature. I think that's the big story with Pacioretty this season. Not really the finishing abilities from earlier on in his career, but how physical he's been. Can you just pop him in that lineup in game one? You comfortable with that?
Like, I can't say I'm necessarily comfortable with it. I think he has a short leash. I'd like to see him beforehand just to get up to speed because you'll hear every guy talk about it. I went through it. It's really hard to recreate game-like mentality, right? That physicalness. And everybody talks about that when they're training come back as a player, right? For goalies, for me, it was traffic, right? Like the timing wasn't bad because I'd see so many shots and battling. What I noticed is when I was getting the net is the traffic, right? It's hard to recreate like guys taking one-timers and tips and blocks in practice, where for players, they always talk about getting their cardio, getting their legs. But then when you add in that physical play, there's nothing like getting hit along the boards consistently hard. You know, you can try to recreate that. So I think there is adjustment for that. But erring on the side of Max Pacioretty being a veteran and having experience and having it between his ears and the maturity to jump right in, I feel more confident him doing that than I would say like someone like a Bobby McMahon or someone younger who doesn't really have a ton of experience. Maybe the moment might get a little big for him, but I think Max is good enough between the ears to jump in.
And I think people will laugh, but like they got Max Pacioretty for the playoffs.
Oh, 100%.
Not even that you would laugh, but he's a guy that you want playing in the playoffs. That's why you sign him way back when, right?
100%, right? I think there is that added grit, right? If we look back on these series that they're going to get into and the way that it's reffed and the way that it's played, you need guys that are sandpaper out there, right? Even we look at Scott Lawton. Yes, we've been quick to judge him. I know he got off the schneid last night, but with that being said, these are guys that are going to be judged by what they do in the playoffs and how they can bring teams into the mud with them and make it hard on teams. And I think that's going to be important in a 7-game series because it's not just a 1-game showdown, right? You're trying to wear teams down and beat them when it matters.
X still writes in, I loved Patches earlier. He has the skill, but also the dog in him. A little dirty, but you love that. I do. I agree. And I think Pacioretty, if he plays the way he did earlier on this season, I think he's going to be a monster asset. And I'm probably a minority, take right now, but I like Pacioretty in the top 6. I've been consistent in saying that. Wouldn't be shocked. And I know McMahon's been a good fit right now with Tavares and Nylander, but wouldn't be shocked if we see Pacioretty, Tavares, and Nylander at some point in time. I don't know if it's going to be game one, but I think Pacioretty's a guy who's interchangeable in that lineup. To your point, maybe you see him game one, maybe you don't. And I love that aspect of insertion in the Stanley Cup playoffs, because it happens quite frequently where, coaching, I think it puts a team over the top sometimes, specifically in the playoffs. Like, what you're going to get in a 7-game series, but it's how you adapt to adversity. That's a big question.
You got to know what guys are going, right? You see it all the time where it's, I feel like sometimes teams stick to lines. I know we always joke about Keefe going right to the blender, but these are like perimeter changes, right? Where, of course, we're going to see Matthews and Marner and Nylander and Tavares up top, right? These are the guys that are going to be your superstars and churn the engine for the Leafs. But again, like little adjustments here and there, a guy going up, a guy going down. Like, where does Yarncroc fit? How is Domi going? Is Domi going? Maybe we can get him going. His offense is going come playoff time. Because he's a guy that is physical, and I think Pacioretty can do that, and he has the maturity to go up and down, and the selflessness to understand that this is bigger than him too, right? I think there is a maturity in that where I guess maybe in years past, seeing the way Nick Robertson has handled things is a bit frustrating for me, because it is like prioritizing himself, right? I think he looked at his brother and his numbers and contract, where now you have a guy like Max Pacioretty. He'd be playing for free right now, in my opinion. He just wants to try to win and help this team win a cup. And I think that is what the ultimate goal is. And I think Pacioretty will wear that on his sleeve as the playoffs start to continue here.
That is exactly it. In support of Sick Kids KPG, thank you so much for the super chat. Last night separated the boys from the boys. Very well said. Randy Carlyle is coming up on today's podcast. Looking forward to that in about 20 minutes here, Huts.
Yeah, it will be good. It's always nice to check in with former coaches, right? I guess because their perspective is always a little bit different than ours, right? Like, I guess maybe I have more of that, things roll off me quicker, because that was a habit I had to have where, I like to hear their analytical side of what they're seeing and, adjustments. And now when you're talking about how they're game planning, with playoffs coming, right? Where for me, it was more, we're peaking at the end of the year. I'm just worried about myself, right? I'm worried about what I can do, especially as a goalie standpoint, where now a coach, he's got this many games to get guys moving in the right direction. What are you trying to fine tune here? What loose ends are you trying to tie up come playoff time? So I will like hearing his perspective, especially after a tough loss like that on the road. What are you doing coming in today's meeting? Are you ripping them a new one, or this one that we throw in the trash and move on to the next game?
It's exactly it. And I think it was perfect timing. I know I booked him a couple days ago, but coming off a game like this, you're on the West Coast, you're in San Jose, inferior opponent, not very good defensively, don't get goaltending. As a coach, what do you do to react to that and combat that? And Randy Carlyle, again, coming up in about 20 minutes here at the Leafs Nation 401 on YouTube. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. Perfect timing again, man. Craig Berube indirectly calls out Joseph Woll last night. Pretty beauty quote at that, saying we all got to be better, goalie included. It's not good enough. Your thoughts, Huts?
It wasn't. It was a tough game for him. And, there's certain plays where I even the first one, right? You get 3 guys up high. The power play one, McCabe gets so high, they lose. They both have double coverage. We're giving up a lot of things at the net. Then the other one I didn't like is where I think it was Wenberg walked right into the ladies' tees, pretty much became a breakaway. OEL backs totally up. I know the other guy on the 2-on-1 is a one-timer, but at some point you need to force that guy and make him make a saucer pass and, hope Woll can get across on it. And then the puck handling miscue was obviously a stinger, right? That is just a thorn on the side. Then you get to the shootout. You hope he can make a big save, and he can't really get it done at that point. Obviously they battle back to get a point, which is nice against a weaker opponent, but it wasn't, just felt like maybe they were let off the gas last night, Nick.
Yeah, a bit. And I always wonder goaltending. Like, I think it's such a volatile position. As you know, I always like to bring that up, but every guy's different. How do you think Joseph Woll, how did you react when a coach called you out in the media? I'm sure it happened a couple times.
Oh yeah, it happened lots of times.
Every game.
But honestly, the one that I really remember was I was younger, first year in the league. I think it was 500. Barry Trotz just absolutely sewered me. We played in Carolina. We lost 2-1. Didn't have a great game. Alexander Semin kind of banked one off me when I was in RVH. He was just below the goal line, so brutal goal. And then Skinner scored. I gave up 2 on 25. So it wasn't like a bad stat line. It was just like the time of the goals, the momentum in the game. And that's kind of something that's so important when you're talking about when and where the goals go in. And I'm having a shower after the game, right? I'm getting ready to go. And our PR guy comes in and he's like, hey, Huts, don't go on Twitter. but we lost 2-1. Like, I was like, it wasn't that bad. And Trotz went to the media and he's like, that goaltending was brutal. It's not good enough for the NHL. And I also feel like he was at a weird phase. Rene was out. I was trying to, and the next day he actually called me in his office and he apologized to it. And he was like, hey, I shouldn't have done that. I was hot in the moment. And I was like, and then after that, Barry Trotz is still, I got a chance to see him when I was in Nashville. He said hi, and he's a good dude. He's really wears it on his sleeve. He was really sincere to me, but I took that as like fuel after, right? Like I would go and play the next game and I'd win. And that year I ended up being, I was 7-7 at the time. I ended up 20-13. So I go on a, 13-6 run, like played very good on a non-playoff team. I remember shaking his hand after the game, we'd win. And in my mind, I was like, fuck you, man. Like I had this kind of fire in me and it was good for me. So I don't know if you like, that was an intentional reaction, but that's the way I was motivated. Then as I would have success and continue on my career, I would find ways to like create these internal battles in myself to like believe in myself and find a way to be motivated. Cause at times you start to lose it, right? You start to, I was making lots of money at a time and it's get tricky, right? Because you have a lot of things and you learn to get a little more comfortable. So finding a way is to keep you honest. Cause if not, you can fade away pretty quickly, Nick.
Today's player is just so different. That's why I sort of asked you that question, because back in the day, players would get called out in the media. The next game, they would be on fire. Now the handling and the coddling has to be a lot different. And I'm sure we've seen Craig Berube evolve as a head coach in the NHL, where he doesn't pull this card out very frequently. But I think what we're looking for Saturday, and we'll get to the preview of that game, is a response from this Maple Leafs team. But I like the fact that he dragged everybody down. Like maybe he only felt that Joseph Woll was the biggest reason why they didn't walk out with the 2 points in that game. But I like that he lumps everybody together. I've got no issue with that. But I'm always curious when you call out a goalie, how it can go, because I've seen examples, and we talked about a guy yesterday in John Tortorella who was notorious for calling out guys in the media. And it just doesn't happen as frequently now.
I know. I do think it's more like the changing of the culture of hockey, right? And I dealt with this my last year in Arizona. Andre Tournier, we actually did personality tests, and he could figure out. We work with sports psychologists. We had to answer like hundreds of questions, and then they categorized us into 4. You know, I wish I paid more attention.
Should have.
And so it'd be like you were like a leader or an influencer, you were compassionate. There was like different ways. And then there was different like response mechanisms, right? So as a coach, what he was trying to figure out is he would learn, you know, what you responded best to. So I would respond best to like, hey, Huts, you suck tonight. You need to be better, like a kick in the ass. Where some guys, you do that to them, you get a different response. So I think that's just like the new age coaching. So where, you know, you need to know your players. You need to understand, you know, what's going to motivate them. And I think that is where the game is changing in a sense, where a lot of guys aren't the old school mindset, right? And that's okay too. But I think as a coach, you need to understand that you just can't paint every player with the same brush. So when I look at Tortorella, I look at some of these older coaches that are just like all bark. At times you start to lose your room, right? Because these guys have the contracts, they have the status, they're not worried. Like you're not going to intimidate them. Like if I'm on a 7-year, $8 million deal, like, okay, yell at me, man. I don't care. Like I'm going to just take my money. I'm going to get what I can. So it is shitty to hear, I think, from the outside looking in, but at times you have to massage guys and get them to play the right way. And I think calling out a goalie is okay. I think it's the communication after, which is important, right? To be like, hey, we believe in you, but we just know that like you're such an important player on this team. You have to be better. And I think a player like Joseph Woll or any real player with good leadership in the room, like they understand where it's coming from, right? That's the cross you bear playing hockey, right? Like you chose to be a professional hockey player. This is the shit that comes with it.
Brother, all I'll say is there was a time in this iteration of the Maple Leafs where the coach had to walk back comments about players. And that's not going to happen with Craig Berube. No. And we all know what I'm referring to, but it's a different era, a different breed of NHL player and player in general these days. KPG, thank you so much for the super chat once again in support of Sick Kids. Woll was channeling Samsonov with the stick work, and we're going to the Leafs Nation vault here, and we have a clip of you back in the day in the show.
That's
Break
it.
it down, Huts.
You play long enough, you got a lot of mishaps here.
Here we go.
That's me trying to make a play and give Joel Farabee a freebie, baby. Those are some dark days in Buffalo. You know what? Actually, Rasmus Ristolainen snapped it back to me, and I was like, caught it and just made a right here. He passes it to me. I grab it. I don't know what I'm thinking. Tries to make a cute play, and Farabee says, thanks for the freebie.
Did he send you a Christmas gift that year? Or?
Oh my God, that's tough to watch. Why did I tell you guys about that? That's stupid. Now I have demons again. I'm gonna have to start drinking again. This is tough times. But honestly, you play long enough. Man, you're going to be on the other side of highlights too.
Fair. Hey, you played in the NHL. Nobody could ever take that away from you. But yeah, it's a tough clip. I won't lie. Just looking at that Sabres uniform. When you signed with the Sabres, I was on NHL Network Radio, and I brought this up. I'm like, what are we doing here, man? What are we doing in Buffalo? And I still ask those questions on a daily basis. So congrats to you and your family for getting that contract.
Yeah, thanks, man. That's why I work here. I work about 4 hours a week, buddy. That's thanks.
Well, everybody in the nation's vacation.
Thanks to Terry Pagula. I still send him Christmas cards every year.
Exactly. Like, you're a minority owner in Love and Exile, a bar where we're at in Nashville, for a reason. And the Buffalo Sabres are the biggest reason why. So Nylander, 42 goals, career high. Guy's been money in the bank, man. Just so consistent.
He was. He had a great chance in overtime for the hat trick too. Just like a nose for the net, right? And I actually, what's funny is we were watching the other day. My little guy has been working on this a lot, where you can see him on that shootout goalie. He plants his heel and he drags himself the other way. And you see guys do it a lot now, where they plant their heel and it like brings them the other way. And he is such an artist at doing it. And it's been fun to watch his skate work and his just nose for the net. It seems like he never fatigues. It almost looks at times like it's effortless, right? And he's going so fast and moving so well. So it was impressive to watch last night from Nylander. I think he's been so consistent across the board this year. Or look back at last year, he had stints of, taking time off and not producing points, where he was a difference maker last night. And what I loved last night was the play by Nyes. He had two great plays.
Stud.
That first one where he battles for the puck, he jacks the stick, gets the puck, makes the pass back door. Then on the tying goal late in the game, majority of guys play that puck, right? It's just off his hip in the slot. He's going to play it, but he has the awareness to let it go, and it feeds Nylander back door, and they end up tie game and get the extra point. I think that's a heads up play by Nyes, and just seeing how good he is in that office in front of the net.
Guy's a truck, man. He's such a machine. I'm curious to see how he does in the Stanley Cup playoffs. He's going to get the new contract at some point in time in the offseason, but that negotiation is going to be really, really fascinating. But when you look at Nylander, just an impeccable campaign. And again, we talked about this the other day. The contract, I think he's worth every penny so far. He's maybe exceeded expectation of that contract. And I like the fact that he's just been very focused on the playoffs, bringing out the playoffs, very consistent in saying that. And I think you, as a player, have to have that mentality. And Nylander has been one of the constants, I would say, in the playoffs most years, where you really notice the guy. But you talked about Scott Laughton. I know it's different for a former goalie, but I don't even know what the equivalent is. But he scores his first goal as a Leaf. I think that's big. I think Laughton, the points are going to come now.
Yeah, I think it's important too, right? There is an adjustment period, right? This guy's been through a lot. And again, it's Toronto. Like, this is no joke. Like, I don't care how long you've played in the league or how secure you are. This is a different breed of animal, putting that jersey on, sliding it over your head, knowing the pressure, knowing the history of what comes with it. So I think there is that time. And again, this is another one that I keep saying it, and I'm going to keep pounding that drum. Like, we look at last year's Oilers run, right? We look at Connor Brown. We look at Janmark and what they did come playoff time. Like, Connor Brown was shit all year, right? He was insignificant. And like, again, it's those perimeter guys come playoff time, if you can get it done. And I love everything I've heard about Scott Laughton as a player, as a person, as a dressing room guy. And I think that is great. And I think there's nobody else more pulling for Scott Laughton than guys in that room. And I think it's going to come, and you just got to keep to it, right? There is an adjustment. You play a different system. You have a different team and different players, and just kind of getting on sync with them. So again, it's nice to get a goal. I think that is good for confidence. Obviously, a goal Georgiev should have had. It was just like, seemed like a snap, just a little clapper from the point there. But again, any way to get in, it just takes, you get a weird one, you get that monkey off your back, and things start rolling in the right direction, Nikki.
Hutz, I just saw you gift wrapped a goal to Joel Farabee. You can't be breaking down Alexander Georgiev's game now 5 minutes later. I'm sorry. You can't do it.
Pull up some good saves, man. Beat this guy.
Yeah, can we get a Carter Hutton save montage?
You ever see my save against the Leafs? That was like save of the year, buddy.
Daniel Winnick. Talking about.
I'm sending it in. Vic,
we got to get Winnick on the show. We'll get Winnick on the show, and you can break it down with him. So there were some positives, as mentioned. I know you lose to San Jose. It's in a shootout. I wonder if those 2 points they lost to San Jose this season, does that cost them the Atlantic Division? We'll find out. But even seeing the power play, the way it's been progressing, 2 for 4 in that game, now 43.7% in the month of March, man. They're 14 for 32. Just think about where they were even a month and a half ago, to where they're at right now.
Yeah, it's moving in the right direction. I guess it's just, again, it's all about peaking at the right time, right? It's all about finding that. And again, it seems like that is the black cloud over the season, right? It is the playoffs, right? It's almost like however well the Leafs play, we are constantly just kind of uncertain of, what is going to come and where they're at, and if they're going to get Florida, if they're going to get Tampa. Instead, like being present. What I do agree with, I think, being on the other side of this is that we're constantly tough on this team because they haven't earned the right to have that leash come playoff time, right? They need to win when it matters. And again, you're just hesitant, right? I've made that reference a few times now, but with that being said, I think there is more communication. I think Craig Berube is, being transparent with these guys in the way that he has the room, right? Which I think is so important, and a guy that demands respect. And I think this is a better generation of player now to like respect him, because these guys are at the point where if they don't win, this core is going to be broke up and it kind of loses that luster of their legacy.
Yeah, they're at the pinnacle right now. There's no doubt about that. In the playoffs, less than a month away. This interview is brought to you by our friends over at Greta Bar. Whether it's before, during, or after the game, it's the place to be on King Street West. Awesome street food and wicked arcade games. 590 King Street West. Greta Bar. Let the games begin as we bring in none other than Randy Carlyle, the former head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs. What's going on, Randy? How are you?
Oh, not bad, guys. How's it going in Toronto?
We're great. So you come on a Leafs show and you wear a Jets shirt. I appreciate that. Oh, no, we lost you now, Randy.
Oh, we lost him.
We'll try to reconnect with you. Sorry, Randy.
There you go. You're back now.
Oh, you're back. You're back. How are you?
Oh.
No, we lost you again. Sorry, Randy. We'll try to reconnect and get Randy Carlyle here. I took a fun little jab at him, but very appreciative of Randy stopping by the show today. So we'll connect with him in mere seconds here to get his thoughts. And I think it was perfect timing too, Huts, just to get a coach in here and sort of get his idea on what's going on with this team right now too.
Yeah, I honestly, I just like to hear like from behind the scenes that perspective, right? Of, what are you doing? What is your response to a game like that? And especially right now, I feel like it's been a little bit of that inconsistent role of the season, right? We watched the game against the Flames at home, the game against the Flyers at home. It's unbelievable. Then we watched that Florida-Ottawa game and it's brutal. And then we watched last night and it's brutal. And it's, that inconsistency. How do you iron that out as you start to get down to the home stretch here?
Definitely. Producer Vic, do we have Randy now? Randy, can you hear us now?
You can hear us. We can't.
Oh, you can hear us. We can't hear him.
Whatever. On the top of the screen, it's showing your director has me muted.
Okay, we got you now, Randy. How are you?
Good. Take three.
Hey, thank you so much
okay?
for doing this. So we got you. Thank you so much for doing this. We're piggybacking off this shootout loss for the Maple Leafs, but want to tap into your brain as the coach. How do you handle the media after a game like that against an inferior opponent? I know Craig Berube was kind of critical of his team, and maybe rightfully so after that game.
Well, I think that the reason that you can be critical of your group is because of the amount of goals that you gave up, obviously. The Leafs have proven that they can score goals, and they've done it all year. And when you go into a situation like that last night where they were expected to win, as simple as that. But you have to understand every team that the Leafs go up against is going to have, we're going to take these guys down a peg. We're going to show that we can raise the level of our game to compete with these guys. In reality, if you look at it, the San Jose Sharks in last night's hockey game were as competitive as the Leafs were. It took 2 goals with empty net for the Leafs to get a point out of it. So I try to focus on the positive of it. We weren't as good as we should have been or could have been. We got a point, so let's move on. Let's get ourselves ready for the next one.
Randy, what's your take on like throwaway games, right? Like we've all been through them, right? Where it's, your team doesn't perform. The next day you go to do video and you don't even talk about it, right? It's one of those ones you move on. And what's your take on playing a bad team, right? You're going to San Jose. Sometimes it's tricky to get up for those games.
Yeah, it is tricky, but that shows the maturity usually of your group is when you can move past those things. And I'm saying, like, I would look at last night as not so much a negative. Yeah, they missed the point, but I would take the positives out of it and try to build on that and say, hey, we didn't play best. We know we have to be better defensively. Now it's time to move on. We can't continue to play this way and have success long-term into the playoffs. So move on. You know, there's a lot of tapes that you throw away, and last night might be one of them. That we're not going to review what happened last night. We know we didn't defend enough, or didn't defend well enough in that critical area. If you look where the goals are scored from, and I guarantee you, they're scored from the high danger areas, and that's where you got to become much more stout defensively, specifically down the stretch and into the playoffs.
How did you attack goalies specifically, Randy, when it came to the media? Because every goalie's different. They're unique breeds for sure. But how would you attack sort of a goaltender in the media? Because, again, Craig Berube indirectly called out Joseph Woll last night.
Well, again, I don't know. I didn't read what he had to say at Joseph Woll, but I know in the Toronto media that there's a lot of things that you've got to be very, very careful of when you talk about your goaltenders. I can remember one instance. I really am waiting for the financial rewards. I had a game in Detroit, and we were playing, and James Reimer was in that, and they asked me what I thought of the goaltending. I said it was just okay. And then this became an issue that I had attacked James Reimer, and I was basically out to get him, and I didn't respect him, and all I had said, and that deemed was negative or too negative in the eyes of the media at that time, and I was called out on it. There was this whole hoopla that there was some boxer in town was going to take me into the ring. It was broadcast across the Toronto media for 2 days that I used it just okay. It's just a term that I use. Do you think but that's the way they deemed it. And those are the things that you really can't control, because I don't think I was attacking. And I think at times can utilize the media, but I don't think it's positive for any coach to really go after any player. I think you keep things as much close to the vest and inside the room as possible.
Yeah, I think that's important too, right? I feel like things get taken out of context, and it's one of those things where the media and there's so much pressure on goalies, right? I've lived it. I've been through the experience. I told a story earlier about Barry Trotz saying something and it blew out of proportion. But with that being said, Morgan Rielly hasn't had the best season, right? Like statistically where he's at, he's a guy that played for you.
Yeah.
What would be your plan if you were Craig Berube to try to maximize him to peak at the right time? Because at the end of the day, if he goes on and has a great playoffs, what went on in the regular season means nothing, right? Because this team is going to be judged by what they do in the postseason.
Yeah, I think with a player like Morgan, I look at it, and he's a minute muncher. I call him a guy that can chew minutes. He plays a lot of hockey in a lot of different situations. And, as a 20-year-old, we really tried to protect him, starting into the league. And I can actually, he made a comment. I think there was a Pavel Datsyuk retirement or acknowledgement for the Hall of Fame in Toronto, and he played in the game. And Morgan had referred back to me as trying to get him off the ice anytime Pavel Datsyuk was on the ice. So that's how you try to protect a young player. But with Morgan, I think you just got to let him play. I think that more importantly with him, he's got to feel that he's got a partner that he can rely on. And I think that would be the number one thing that I would make sure that from now going forward, I play him with the same guy, and I play him in the same situations. And historically, Morgan Rielly has found a way to step up the level of his game. Because he had maybe an off season comparatively to the ones he's had before. I don't think that would be something that I would worry too much about, because you have a player, he plays key minutes. He's a big part of their back end. And I would just give him, if anything, I would give him some rest.
Randy, how would you handle the crease? We think Stolarz is going to be the guy in game one, but would it come right down to the stretch for you to decide who's going to start that first game? Does it matter who starts the first game?
Well, I think you base the body of work over the season for your starter. And I really look at it as, and this might be a little different than most guys, but I think everybody deserves 2 starts. So if a guy has a bad night, and then in this next little while, that you go back to him and give him an opportunity to recover from what his performance the night before. But after that, and when you go into the playoffs, it's basically you start with the guy that gives you the best chance to win. And usually, I've always won. If you win, you're in. And I've found that has worked best with both your teammates and with the individual, that he understands that there's going to be a situation that if he wins, he's going to continue to get the net. And he can be outstanding and still, lose the hockey game, but you still go back to him. But that's a game by game assessment as you do in the playoffs. I think, things get overblown as what you're going to do in the playoffs. I think you have to react on a day-to-day basis in a lot of situations when you're in the playoffs, and how you feel, how your team's played, how the goals were scored, where they were scored from, and how the individual, has historically responded. Usually, my advice to goaltenders would just stop the puck. That's all we ask. Stop the puck.
I like that. Huts, what's your response to that? Just
keep it simple. I had a great coach that, like, you'd speak up in the room or do something. He'd just tell you to stop the puck. And I agree with you. I think right now it's a feeling out process, having two guys. And do you think so? I got one more for you, Randy. What is your, like, at this time of the year, right? You're fighting to try to win the division, but get your team to play with the right style of hockey at this point. If you're Craig Berube, like, how are you dispersing your lineup, or how are you judging your lineup as you get ready to prepare for the playoffs?
Well, I think that has already happened. Really, realistically, I think they have a comfort zone with their group. They haven't had a lot of turmoil, a lot of change over the course of the season. They've had their group together. I think they're comfortable with where their team is at and the players that they have in what positions. Yeah, you'd like to see somebody step up and score a big goal or maybe block a big shot or something in a game, make a big play. But again, I think they're comfortable with their group. They're set in their lines. And I think that what I would be focused on is their team play and how you're going to approach, because they're going to play more likely they're going to play one of the Florida teams, correct? That's the way it's set up, So in my mind, you're looking about the opposition, A, B, or A or B, and then try to set up your hockey club and understand that what is going to be the most effective lineup to play against one of those hockey clubs.
Randy, it's an exciting time here. Really appreciate you taking some time for us, and enjoy the stretch drive into the Stanley Cup playoffs here.
All right, guys. Have a great day.
Take care. As well. There is Randy Carlyle, the former head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and always great to get the insight of a coach, especially a game like that where it's like, man, like inferior opponent, didn't have your best effort, hot coach after the game. Like, I thought that was really good insight.
Yeah, the Leafs were as bad as that guy's Wi-Fi today.
Better insight than fucking connection.
No, it was, but that was honestly good insight, though. It's obviously tough at times when the Wi-Fi is like that. These guys still up on dial-up, but it was honestly, I like calmness, though, right? You know what I mean? Like, even like talking about the lineup and stuff, it's like he already knows, and I'm not going to get out of my head now that Morgan Riley's a minute muncher, though. So that one's going to stick with me. That is
I heard something else
for Morgan Riley, the minute muncher. But I think he likes that perspective. And I do like what he talks about with goalies, right? If you're winning, like, who cares, man? That is, at the end of the day, all that matters.
Very well said. And again, our apologies. The connection. Producer Vic is the one who loses his mind the most, and I get it because he is the producer and you want the show to look and sound good. But we did our best. We did our best there with Randy Carlyle, our guest here on the Friday edition of Leafs Morning Take at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. AK Redding and Randy on delay. Where is he? Australia. Good advice for Huts too. Just stop the puck from JC. I like that advice. Great advice.
Yeah, I know, buddy. I tried. It's trickier than you think. Eh? Good one, Randy. Good one. Randy.
Good one, Randy. A lot of people in the chat saying that. I would have loved to ask him a bit about like Phil Kessel, Dion Phaneuf, the toaster, that entire era. Yeah. Give me a breakdown day by day of you as the head coach. What was it like to coach Jay Rosehill, Randy Carlyle?
Was he the coach when they lost? I was on the Preds and we whacked Toronto 9-3 or something at home. Was he the coach then? I don't know.
Probably. No, it might have been Horacek.
Okay. Yeah, that was a good one. That was a tough one. There was jerseys all over the ice. It was chaos. And
that was in Nashville or in Toronto? That
was in Toronto. In Toronto, we beat you guys 9-3 on home ice. I think Bernier and Reimer were your goalies. Rene was in net. I backed up, but it was jerseys flying everywhere. Everybody was so mad. We absolutely whacked you.
Yeah, it sounds like Toronto. I think story checks out without reading the box score. It checks out. we want to win every game. Like, it just, there's an expectation of winning in this market. That's why I go to the Blue Jays game and they shit themselves. So we don't want to see that on the ice as well.
Yeah, I know at times it's.
But you know what the most Leafy thing ever is going to happen this weekend? Like, I'm calling my shot right now, and I do this a lot on this podcast. The Leafs are going to waltz in to Hollywood. They're going to go into Los Angeles. The Kings are 26-3-4 at home, and the Leafs are going to win that game. I guarantee it.
Yeah, they will. And it's just one of those ones
it's just so Leafs. They're going to do
just
it.
leave
We
you,
all know.
like at the end, you're going to be scratching your head being like, how do we go and do this and then come into here and win this one, right? And it's going to be, I feel like they do that all the time, right? This is just what we expect now from these players in that status. And I think it's going to be judge this team by their response here too, which is a good thing. But that being said, you know, you want to get 2 or 3 on this trip, right? And now your back's a little bit against the wall as we look at the standings. And I know we don't want to worry about that, but I would much rather get Ottawa than I would get Tampa or get Florida. You know, I don't think we'll get Florida at all. It's either Tampa or Ottawa at this point, it looks like.
The Bolts are on fire. They won again, 8-0.
8 spot. Yeah, put up an 8 spot last night.
They're scary, right? Because they added some depth here. They got Bjorkstrand, they got Yanni Gourde back in the mix, the familiarity. Vasi's playing well. They got Hedman, they got Kucherov on top of his game. They got Point. Weirdly, again, I just have a lot of confidence Leafs facing off against Tampa. But regardless, we all know who the biggest opponent is for the Maple Leafs. That's themselves. And it's true, though. Like, we laugh, and everybody in the chat's agreeing with me for once. But I think they're going to go into Los Angeles. They're going to win that game. You know, the Kings are on a 15-game home point streak. That's the best in franchise history.
The Kings are legit this year. It's like literally something I didn't really see coming. Kemper's been reemerged there. They've got good depth. Quentin Byfield's been awesome. I think Brant Clark has come in and played well for a guy like Drew Doughty. And again, I do think you're right in the sense of, like, you know, their biggest opponents themselves. It's like Bigger and McCracken, from Kingpin. Who's your biggest threat out there? Myself. That is something that I think this
I don't
team
get the reference at all, but yeah.
You've never seen Kingpin?
No.
Oh my goodness, Nick.
Who's in that?
Woody Harrelson.
Oh,
Bill Murray. Bill Murray plays Bigger and McCracken. It's a bowling movie. This is a must watch. Like one of the best movies of all time. Maybe I'm dating myself a little bit, but I'm sure the chat will buzz up about Kingpin. This is like an all-time movie.
No, like I am right now. This is my market. I actually like movies in the 90s. It's an
you'll love
90s.
This one, then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, this is like honestly one of my favorite movies of all time. It's so funny. I quote it way too often.
Okay. No, I had no clue what the hell you were saying there. So Kingpin. I'm gonna shut everything down for the weekend. I'm gonna watch Kingpin. Anything else to add? Anaheim Sunday, LA Saturday. I think we'll probably agree, but you probably go back to Stolar Saturday and then go Wool Sunday, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the play here, right? You got to get the Stolars now, especially after the way that he played last game. Again, I don't really think it matters yet. Like, I still feel like it's a feeling out process. Again, this is getting hot at the right times, right? Like statistics alone. Obviously, it's a tough night for the Wolves season numbers. Again, you give up 5 and it's tough. Yeah, a little bit of extended game. But that being said, there were some softies last night. Obviously, the turnover with the puck, which can happen to anybody. But I look for Stolars to push. This is where you want to battle, right? This is where you want that competitiveness, and having 2 guys is important down the stretch. But I think we see Stolars, then we see Wool. And then from there, I think we reassess when they come back home and they start to, you know, figure out as we close to the season. Because I don't think Stolars is totally out of the mix, right? I know we've seen Wool a little more lately, but I think they're both right there.
Too hard on you earlier in the show, so we got that save against the Leafs to make you happier, to make you smile. Break this down for us, please.
Thanks.
I think it's coming on your screen in mere moments here.
There it is. Here we go. Wi-Fi bad here. Here we go. Okay, there's me right there. So that goes off the post.
Okay.
And then
those jerseys
it hits Winnick. It's going in, and I spin around and hit it with my stick.
I forgot those puke yellow Preds jerseys.
Let's not worry about the jerseys. Let's worry about
they're like green, dude. Okay, let's see it. Let's see it.
You got it on replay here?
Oh, did it happen already? I missed it.
Yeah. What? It happens quick, man. You got to be ready. I think they showed it again.
Jerseys. Is that John Blum? No,
that's Seth Jones.
I know, obviously. Yes, I know who
John Blum. He had a cup of coffee. They're right here. Watch. Okay, so it goes off the post, right? It goes out, and then it shoots. It goes off Daniel Winnick here, and then I spin off my pad and
that's luck. That's not a save.
What are you talking about? That's not. What are you? Buddy, that's That's competitiveness. That's boom.
You want to piss off a goalie? You say that's luck.
That's more bad on ball than the Jays had yesterday.
So yeah, it's true. I love how Andreas Jimenez gets the first hit of the season. It's a 2-run bomb, and he is actually one of the worst hitters on the team and probably in the league. He's known for his glove. I digress. But to piss off goalies, all you have to say is that was luck. That wasn't a save. And that'll get them. My brother's a goalie. Same shit, man.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm not upset. You're upset. That was save of the year or something. Save of the, I don't know.
I don't know
some spin
about
around.
that. It was a good save.
I always joke. I'm telling you, I was up there, watch still on TSN. Every time they do like the top 50, it's in there. I always get a few random texts from people. It keeps me relevant. But you know what? I always would joke around. I had another one in Philly where I was behind the net and it came off the stanchion and I dove around. I always would
Vic,
joke
can we just go through some saves here? Like it's a Friday. Let's have some
pull
fun.
it up. Carter Hutton against Philadelphia
Carter Hutton
Flyers. Vic, come on. I can't believe he doesn't have a
we didn't do take it or leaf it today. My apologies, folks. Got a bit pinned at the Blue Jays game last night.
I always joke around that when I'm out of position all the time, you're bound to make those saves. I didn't play a boring brand of hockey.
You did not. No, you definitely didn't. It was an adventure every time you were out there. But if producer Vic, if you're still watching this show, can you put some Carter Hutton saves on the screen so I can just laugh or smile on my
Oh,
goal? Here's another one.
Look at that one. Dive around, saved it. Boom. Look, I'm getting some credibility now.
Those are better jerseys.
Well, I think they're the same. They're just the road ones. Look at all the boys smiling, eh? Look at Mike Fisher, that iron.
Yeah, because they know they finally got a save.
We won that game 2-1. I went to a shootout. I think it was 2-2. I played well in the shootout.
Huts, were you on that Preds team? Like, I've asked Rosie this. It was maybe like 10 years ago when I went with some friends. The one where Craig Smith was on an empty net breakaway and put into the net.
No, I wasn't. That was the year after. The year after I showed up. Craig Smith was a psycho on the bench, though.
Was he?
Yeah, look at that. Boom. Got it. David Lagwan actually took a penalty on that play. He slashed Michael Raffle right here and like saved me because he kind of fans on it, but I have enough time to dive around.
I'm getting chirped now. Jason M, let's see replays of Nick's goals in the NHL.
There we go. That's my boy, Jason. A little bit of backup here.
Jason, if you're a longtime listener of this podcast or viewer, you know I hate goalies. Every goalie. They're not present, dude. Your boy Mrazek went down the other day. Like we talked about this yesterday in NHL Fantasy on Ice. There's no reliability to the position. Whereas 20 years ago, I would turn on a Devils game and I would know who's playing that game. Not the story anymore. These guys just MIA. I always reference the game I went to with Rosie. It was a revenge game for Matt Murray. Hurt his ankle in warm up. Still good enough to back up wear the baseball cap, but couldn't play that game. So you never know.
That's one that I never understood actually as a goalie and a competitor because you played with so much stuff like in my career. Like if I got a start, there was no way I was missing my start unless I was actually injured. The being able to back up but not being able to play, and it made no sense to me.
I know.
If you're going to back up, you got to be able to play. I also think it's changed in the sense of I know we manage guys differently and we baby them a bit. But I think the wear and tear of the way that we play now is very unique, right? With ankles, knees, hips, because of our VH, because of the butterfly, and you're down so much more than you used to be. And again, I think guys are just constantly on the rink now, and you see it way more now. Like I remember UPL and Buffalo, double hip surgery. You see younger kids getting it. I think while you're growing, you're like putting so much pressure on your body compared to like how it used to be. So I think that is a bit of effect, but I'm with you. I still love the guys that are workhorses, right? It's like a respect thing, right? You can just get it done. And I think that was the generation I came up in, and it started to change. Not that I ever really had the option to play every game. I was just fighting to try to get in when I could.
Sir Bob Laws right said Nick couldn't score in street hockey. Very true. Boston all day. Nick, did you play? No, I played beer league and I played like minor hockey growing up. I'm a baseball player. I brought this up on the show before. Travel baseball. That was my thing. I don't know why I'm covering hockey these days, but Sir Bob Laws, Nick got shout out in NHL Super Nintendo. Very, very likely. Actually, I was really good in NHL growing up. The video game. I used to like just muck that 24/7 and play. Usually had a spitter into chewing some tobacco. Not anymore though.
What systems you play on?
I used to have Xbox.
Okay,
like the original Xbox, man. It was just like I would sit in the basement, and actually funny story, like when I was like 11 or 10, I would sit in front of the TV and play video games and do play-by-play. And then I don't know, it just zoned in. I'm like, I want to be a broadcaster. Granted, I tried play-by-play. It's so hard, but that was like sort of the beginning of like where it started, my dream of being a broadcaster.
Yeah, play-by-play is an art. That is hard. Like I did color one time at TSN with Sheeler. We did like a practice game, and color is way easier because you're just kind of watching the game. And you know what I noticed when I watch a game, like Craig Simpson, he'll be saying things that I've said previously. Like it's very easy. It's just like, kind of painting the picture, like the video does the talking for you, but to call things live is an absolute art. Chris Cuthbert is one of the best. I love listening to him. And I think there's different people that take it or leave it. But I agree. It is an art to see it on that side of the game.
Pound for pound, by the way, we have a pretty good hockey team, like at Leafs Nation. We have Rosie. Zach Phillips is an absolute stud. He's played on my beer league team a couple times this year. Some great passes, backdoor, easy tap ins for me, but he's a really good player. We got you. Like, we got almost a starting lineup here. So I can blend into that lineup, no problem, I think.
Yeah, you can play your role, right? You can chip pucks out, get it in deep, grind it in the corners. They play that simple game, Max Pacioretty style. You know what I mean?
Brandon McLean writes in, I played with Nick. He's a decent beer leaguer. That's a lie. I've never heard of you, Brandon McLean.
Yeah, but he might have played with you. You never
Appreciate
know.
that, Brandon. I'm not that good, though. I'm shit at hockey.
You know what I always find funny with guys and players in the NHL is like they'll play with it. Like a guy like Rosie, right? He played, didn't play a big role offensively. And then guys will play hockey with him and be like, man, you're really good at hockey. Like, what did you think, man? You play in the NHL. I get that all the time. A good friend of mine, Robert Bertuzzo, D-man, played forever, plays a simple game, right? Meat and potatoes. Then he'll get on the ice with local guys here that think they're good at hockey. They're like, man, Bertuzzo's really good. I'm like, yeah, he plays in the NHL.
Yeah, I know. I know.
I think we see them in a certain role, and like you have to adapt your game. Not everyone can be a top 6 guy, but if you're playing in the NHL, you have a really good skill set.
Bro, this show's unreal. So Brandon McLean is actually Brandon Bottom, who I do remember. He was my liney like 5 to 7 years ago and just a finisher. Anybody who has played beer league with me knows I can pass the puck. This guy was a finisher. So what's up, Brandon? I haven't talked to this guy in a while, and it's great to. Our show's so random, man. Like we saw it in Nashville. People come up from everywhere. We had somebody from Australia come up and say hi. Alabama, Texas. Now a guy I played beer league with. Like it's pretty damn cool, man.
That is cool. I think that I had somebody at the airport one time just randomly be like, Leafs Nation, man. I was like, oh yeah. It's cool. It's cool. It goes to so many different networks. And I play beer league now. I'm a D-man. We have our final actually Sunday morning. I'm a D-man though. I'm a puck mover. I'm the same thing. I don't have any finish. Like I can finish when I do my hockey.
You probably have sick hands though. Goalies tend to have sick hands.
I do. Yeah. That's where I make my living. I can carry the puck from behind my net to the far blue line like with ease. I can get round guys. I'm good at, like protecting it and making plays. I cannot score on the fly. Like when I'm moving, if I'm stationary shooting at a hockey camp, I can light goalies up all day. But when I'm moving, I hit the chest like 9 out of 10. I have no finish. So I'm just looking to hit you back door or make a cute play to somebody else.
I don't know what it is, man. I've known a lot of goalies in my life, my brother included, all have really sick hands. Like it's pretty funny that like how good the hands are. I don't know if it goes toe and toe with the position or the glove or it's kind of cool. I don't know one goalie that's got shitty hands.
You know what? One thing that I do notice that I do very well is like poke pucks off guys' sticks, and I like see the play well because I guess maybe my whole life playing hockey or like I got like Matthews deking me out or whoever I'm playing against where I can see where the puck's going to go. So I take pucks off guys' stick all the time. And my biggest thing is when it gets into a real game and structure is like where to go at times. Like I've watched enough hockey, but I've never played the position. I'm smart enough to get around, but at times I'm like, man, where the hell do I go on this play?
Yeah. Pedro Sampson writes in, I'm in Belfast. What's going on? So yeah, we got reached to Ireland, Australia. The show's doing pretty well. I was trying to explain at the Jays game. It's always an adventure trying to talk about what I do. Like I host a daily YouTube show that's on podcast form too, and I work with beauties.
Yeah, I know. You know what I find funny too is like people will be like, "Well, do you do some podcast or something?" And you try to explain it. It's a unique situation. Normally, obviously, it's really well. Maybe today's show is a bit of a stretch here. We went on a tangent with a few of my saves.
No, people actually love these type of shows. Like there'll be random shows where me and Rosie are just giddy, like you and I are giddy today, and we'll just like go off the beaten path. But I think people want to get to know us, what our everyday lives entail. So I think it's cool. And I saw a couple of you in the chat. They would love the idea of a segment where we just show old clips of you or Rosie or whoever and break them down. I like that idea.
Yeah, it would be fun. It would be fun to see it on the other side of it and see what goes on. Yeah, it's what a game though, right? I feel like hockey, whatever level you're at, it's so much fun. Even now playing beer league and now my son plays. I'm like, that's honestly one of my most favorite things right now. Like we got to go to the Leafs Preds game. And my son had played earlier in the day, and I'm like trying to watch on my phone as we're at brunch because it's just such a great game to see him learn. And so he actually played yesterday. And so we've been practicing this move where he lifts his heel and it's called like a heel plant. So when you lift your heel up, it kind of drags you whatever way. So if you lift with your right foot, it almost shoots you over to the right. So if you're coming down as a lefty and you lift your right heel and you go to pull that puck and you lift your heel, it'll drag you over that way. So we've talked about this. He's practiced. Mitch Marner's very good at it. And last night, William Nylander did it in a shootout move. If you watch it again, you'll see him lift his heel and it kind of drags him over to that side. And last night, my son was like, hey, William Nylander did like the heel move, and he did it in his game, and he was like so proud. And that's what I find fun now.
Sick.
It's like you see these little things, and light bulb comes on, and there's so much fun. And whether you're playing the NHL or you're playing in the beer leagues, like it's the same stuff that goes on. Guys are just way better at it. So I would always make that joke. Guys who get called up from the American League, I'd be like, hey, it's the same game. We just make way more money. Right? Like try to it literally is the same game. It's the same stuff. It's just the stakes are higher when it comes to the contract, the locker room, the people, it's all the same.
Zach Phillips writes in, we should do a Rosie fight breakdown show. That'd be a lot of fun. Just Rosie, and maybe have the people he fights break it down with him. I think we did that with Biz Nasty last year. Right here.
Watch his left heel. See how he drags it up in the air?
Yeah.
And it makes you like skid that way quicker. So that was a fun little, again, my son had done that yesterday. He was telling me I did the heel thing on the breakaway and he scored.
That's sick.
It's just little subtle things. The skating, and like Mitch Marner's the best to watch at it. He's got a few. He had that one earlier in the year against Edmonton where he walked through at the start of the third period. He does it all the time. It's a unique move. And again, this is where these kids learn as they watch these guys and they start to develop. So
a lot of skill. Let's get out of here. Breaking news coming in from Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win is a barn burner. Every face-off, hat-trick, power play, shot on goal, penalty shot, and every suspenseful minute in between is amazing. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365, an official partner of the NHL. Download the Bet365 app and use the code NATION. That's NATION, NATION, to get in on the game. Must be 19 or older, Ontario only. Please play responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, visit ConnexOntario.ca. I don't know what the hell's going on with my earpiece today. It keeps coming out of my ear. Any bets you like over the weekend? I think I'm going to follow up and go back to the Lottenwell point prop or a goal prop.
Yeah, I don't hate that either. I think just like usually what stays, starts in motion kind of stays in motion when you look at that team. I look for them to win this one too. Like I know they might be underdogs on the road. I look for Stolars to have a big game here and play well. I think I like the under in that game. I don't think the line is set yet, but I would be taking the under. It's probably going to be at 5.5. I'd assume the way that the Kings defend, but I look for them to play a tight game, like a rejuvenated, and I'm sure that Craig Berube going to light a fire under them. Start that one.
I think the Leafs sweep the weekend, and mark my words, they're going to win. They're going to beat the LA Kings at that arena, 26-3-4, the Kings on home ice. And we're going to be like, that's so Leafy. And we're going to come back on Monday and we're going to break things down. But Huts, excellent job. Have a great weekend. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Nicky. I appreciate it. You too, Vic. Thanks for bringing up those highlights of me getting started and turning it over.
I'm going to go watch Kingpin now, but I would also like to thank Randy Carlyle, although the internet a bit wonky. Maybe we pre-tape with Carlisle next time, but appreciative of his time. I know he's in the West Coast, so pretty early for him. Also, you in the chat, great week, great energy, getting closer and closer to the playoffs here. We're about like 3 weeks away, man. This is the most exciting time here, not only to do podcasting work, but just to watch the game in general. The races are heating up, and for 2 weeks or hopefully longer, we find out, is this team real? Like, that's the question every year, Huts. Is this team different? We're going to finally get our answer here.
Yeah, time will tell, buddy. It's that time of year where every game means a little more, and soon they're going to mean everything. I can't wait.
At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcasts. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. Thank you to producer Vic. For Carter Hutton, I'm Nick Alberga. We'll talk on Monday. Take care. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosa. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.